style some flowers for the home. The flowers that I'm using today are our second edition of subscription flowers, which are sent out every Thursday. Our subscription service is perfect for people who love having flowers in the home and would like to try their hand at flower arranging. This week we have a really gorgeous collection of yellow and blue flowers, including some gorgeous tiny grape hyacinth Muscari, some blousy Ranunculus, roses and Skinnier. This week I'll be using a collection of different smaller trinket vases to spread out the flowers around the home. This is really great if you have lots of smaller vessels such as jars or perfume bottles or just any small little trinket, and it's a lovely way of spreading the flowers around your whole house. So I'm going to start by placing my foliage. This week we have two types of eucalyptus. We have Skinnier, which is the larger leaf, and we have Muscari, which is the smaller leaf. So I'm going to start by opening this bunch. And I'm going to use the Skinnier first because it's got a much straighter stem, so you'll be able to build a better structure with it. And I'm just going to snip off tiny bits, cut the stem with a nice sharp angle and place them into the vase. And I'm just going to be taking the bottom leaves off. You can do it quite easily with your finger. And you just want to make sure that you're removing any leaf that might be sitting in the water. And now I'm going to move on to placing my second type of eucalyptus. It is quite nice where you can to use a variety of different foliages in the arrangement, as you get a really nice array of texture, and it also adds some good volume that will support the flowers when you add them later on. And as I continue to add this foliage, I keep placing the stems at a nice angle. You'll notice by now that you're creating a matrix of the stems in the vases, which is going to provide support for the flowers when you add them. Something that's quite nice about using these little vases is that when you are flower arranging anyway, you probably will have a lot of offcuts of foliage and smaller flowers and buds, so it's a nice way to use them as well. And it's quite nice to use foliage of different heights in the arrangement, as it just adds a little bit of interest and adds some depth to the arrangement. So now we have placed all of our foliage, we can move on to our flowers. The first flower that I'm going to put into these arrangements are my roses. I'm choosing to go in first just because they're the most voluminous, so they're going to take up space and give body to the arrangement, and also because they do have some lovely foliage on them, which will help build up the arrangement as well. When you get flowers directly from the growers, that you will notice that they come completely unconditioned with lots of leaves and some thorns. So before you put them into the arrangement, it's important to condition them, and this will also save your hands from having any nasty thorns go into them. I'm just going to use a small knife to condition the roses. You could use a small kitchen knife if you have one. And I'm just going to place the rose firmly on the desk, standing up, and just make my way down with the knife, cutting off any extra foliage and any of the thorns. And I'm just going to leave the little bit of foliage at the top on this time. Like I said, it will help build up the arrangement. Another thing that you might want to check before you put your roses into the arrangement is their petals. Sometimes with roses, you will get the outside layer of roses turn into what we call guard petals. They become a little bit tougher to protect the inside of the flower, but when becoming tougher, they sometimes get discoloured or a little bit bruised. It's completely up to you if you would like to leave the guard petals on or not. Personally, I quite like to have them on, as it makes them look a little bit more natural and like they've come from the garden. But if you prefer a little bit of a more polished look, you can just simply remove each petal by bringing it down and gently plucking it from the base of the rose. So now it's time to put the flowers into the arrangement. So just as I've done with the foliage, we're going to take the stem, cut it at a nice sharp angle before putting it into the vase. and we're going to remove any leaf that we think might be sitting below the waterline, and from there we can place it into our arrangement, keeping the stems nice and angled so that they sit in nicely. What you want to make sure of is that all of your flowers are sitting slightly above the foliage. Although the foliage is really beautiful, the flowers are the star of the show, so you want them to be sitting proudly from the arrangement and not buried under any foliage. And if you ever feel nervous when cutting the stem, remember you can always cut it, and if it's too long, you can recut it, but if you cut it too short, it won't grow back, so just take a little bit off at a time to make sure nothing comes too short. You want to think about which way they'll be displayed. If you're putting them onto a coffee table, you'll probably see the flowers from 360 degrees, so you want to make sure that everything is dispersed evenly. Whereas if you're putting it on a mantelpiece, you're probably not going to see the back of the arrangement, so you can save all of the flowers for the front of the design. The next flower I'm going to be putting in are these gorgeous purple Skinnier. It's really lovely to use these flowers at this time of the year, as you'll probably notice them growing in your garden. They're very easy for us to use. As you can see, they don't have any leaf. So I'm just going to be cutting them and placing them into the designs. And as these stems sometimes have quite a nice curve to them, I'm going to leave them a little bit longer than I have the roses, because they'll come out of the arrangement and add a little bit of drama to it. The next flower that I'm going to be using are these lovely lemony Ranunculus. When I was picking the flowers for this week's subscription pack, I knew I had to include Ranunculus because they're my absolute favourite. And what is really nice about using Ranunculus in this type of design is you can utilise all of the little buds that grow from the same stem. If you're using it in a larger arrangement, sometimes these buds might be a little bit too short, but when using these little trinket vases, you can place them in as part of the design. And I'm just going to start by conditioning the stems slightly and just removing these little buds and placing them into a pile that I'll put into the designs. And now I'm going to start placing them into the designs. I'm actually going to use the little buds first, as that will help bring us some volume, and I'll save the flower heads for last so I can make sure they're standing nice and tall out of the design so you can really show them off. And now for our last flower, we're going to be using these gorgeous blue Muscari. Muscari are the perfect flowers to use as your finishing touch, as their stems are very slim and clean, meaning it's easy to slot them into the arrangement when you already have quite a lot of stems going on. As the stems of the Muscari are quite short, if you're using a taller vase, you might have to lodge it between some of the stems of the foliage to get the support, and just be careful that your vase is filled all the way up so that the Muscari still has water to drink from. And there you have it, that's all of our arrangements done. As I said, this design is perfect if you want to keep them all together, running across a surface, or you can spread them out and have them in different rooms of the house. We'll be posting new videos like this every Thursday, so if you do want to get involved and make along with us, feel free to visit our website or give our head office a call. And as a special treat, our friends at St Germain have actually gifted us some little bottles of the elderflower liqueur, which we'll be sending out with every subscription, so you can enjoy a nice elderflower spritz while arranging your flowers.